It was Saturday night, and me, Tasha, and Liv had just left this party in the hills. Like bougie house, pool glowing neon, half the guys there pretending to be DJs. I was wearing my glitter halter and these ridiculous heels I always regret. The ones that make you feel like a Bratz doll, but also like you have about 3 minutes before your ankles snap. We were standing on the curb outside, buzzed, laughing, screaming about nothing, and waiting for our rides. My app said the driver was in a black Honda Civic, license plate 8FXL something something. Whatever. 10 minutes pass and the exact car pulls up. Black Civic, same model. I glance at the plate, but it was dark and the taillights made everything hard to see. I was like, okay, that's me, love you bitches, text me when you get home. And I air-kissed everyone goodbye and climbed into the car. It smelled like sweat and old fast food. There were empty water bottles everywhere. On the front seat, the floor, door pockets, and at least 3 crumpled Carl's Jr. bags in the back. I cleared a spot to buckle my seatbelt, and it was sticky. The driver didn't say anything, not even hi, not confirming my name. He just started driving. And he was weird looking, with patchy scruff and a hoodie pulled halfway over his face. Feeling uncomfortable, I said, "How's your night been so far?" And he didn't answer. He just kept driving. Then, and I swear to God, my phone buzzes. It's an unknown number, but for some reason, I decide to answer. It was a guy on the other end. "Hi, it's your Uber driver. I'm outside." I froze. Full body, ice-cold terror. I pretended like I couldn't hear, and he said, "Kelly, where should I pick you up?" I turned and looked at the man driving. "Stop the car," I said. "You're not my Uber." He pressed harder on the gas. We were on Sunset, turning onto some side street, way darker and way emptier. I started screaming, "Stop the fucking car! Let me out!" He locked the doors. I heard them click. And that's when I really lost it. I started kicking the back of his seat, trying over and over to open the door, but the child locks were on. I called Liv and screamed into the phone, "Call the police, I'm in the wrong car." The driver turned around and looked at me like he was annoyed. And that's when I saw he was holding a knife. Serrated like a kitchen knife, not a switchblade. I unbuckled and threw myself toward the front, grabbing the steering wheel with one hand and the gear shift with the other, screaming like a maniac. He swerved hard and pulled over to stop me. I was able to unlock the passenger door and roll out onto the sidewalk, scratched and crying, but alive. He sped off before anyone could get his plate. Some people that heard me screaming came over to help. I ended up going to the hospital with some bruises and a busted knee. The cops told me that there had been several other reports like that lately, of someone pretending to be an Uber driver, targeting young girls. So now I don't take rides alone anymore, ever. I check the license plate 3 times before getting in, and I always ask the driver to confirm our names. Because if I hadn't gotten that call, if my real driver hadn't dialed me right then, I don't think I would have been able to tell you this story. So, this took place last winter. I was driving for Uber a lot, right? It was January, I think. Cold enough to freeze your eyelids shut if you blinked too slow. I had started driving nights because the money was better. Less traffic, more surge pricing, and the bar crowd always tips better after they've been drinking. But late at night, you end up seeing things and hearing things, and sometimes picking up something you wish you hadn't. That Friday night started normal. I was driving a little blue Nissan Versa. Nothing fancy, but she ran good. I had a thermos of coffee in the cup holder and a gospel station humming low on the radio, just enough to keep me company. Around 1:45 a.m., I got a ping from the little dive bar on Fifth Avenue. Tommy's Tap, I think it's called. It was a real crusty place. Probably hadn't changed anything since the 1970s. The kind of bar with flickering neon signs and that damp, old carpet smell that reaches your nose from the parking lot. I pull up outside and there's this woman standing on the curb alone. No one else leaving the bar, no bouncer at the door, just her. She had on a long black coat that brushed against her ankles, but didn't wear a hat or gloves. She was just standing there with her arms at her sides, staring down at the sidewalk. If I had to guess, I would have thought she was thinking really hard about something sad. I rolled down the window and said, "You call for an Uber?" She didn't look at me. She didn't nod. She just walked over, opened the back door, and got inside. "How's it going?" I said. Still no words. Just a voice from the app. A robotic voice it uses when riders are unable or unwilling to talk. It confirmed the location. Delaware Street, 1935 Delaware, apartment 302. The woman was sitting straight up, her hands folded neatly on her lap, and she was just staring at the back of my head. When I looked back at the rearview mirror, there was no one, no reflection. I could see her in the back seat just fine with my eyes, plain as day. But it seemed like her skin didn't catch the light right. She sort of looked like a photo that had been left in the sun too long. But in the mirror, all I saw was the empty back seat. Now, I ain't no fool. I thought maybe it was just a weird angle or the mirror needed cleaning. Maybe my eyes were playing tricks. But my gut felt heavy, and it stayed that way for the whole ride. We headed down Broadway, turning onto 21st, and I started making the way toward Delaware. That area was nice once, back in the day, but not anymore. Now it's block after block of half-burned houses and boarded-up windows. The streetlights, which were few and far between, barely lit up enough to light up the ground below. As we got closer, I realized we were heading to the old Camden Apartments. It was a brick building near the old grocery store that shut down. The place had been boarded up for years. I mean, condemned. No one lives there anymore. But sure enough, the GPS said that was the destination, 1935 Delaware. I slowed down and said, "Ma'am, you sure that's the right address?" And that's when she finally spoke, for the first and only time. "Yes," she said, real quiet. And her voice, I'll never forget it. It was so flat, so tired. I pulled up to the curb, and she opened the car door and stepped out. I swear to you on everything I love, when her foot hit the pavement, the air changed. The trees around us stopped rustling, and even the car engine seemed to quiet down. She walked directly toward the building without stumbling, without nerves, totally calm. The front door was hanging half off the hinges, and I swore that it creaked open on its own before she reached it. And then she slipped inside. And that was it. She never looked back at me. I sat there, stunned, for maybe 30 seconds, or maybe 5 minutes. I know it was long enough for my breath to fog up the windows. I suddenly started to worry that maybe she was confused or had taken something, and that I needed to make sure that she was all right. So I quickly stepped out of the car and walked about halfway up to the front door, calling, "Hey, ma'am, you all right?" There was no answer. No movement. Nothing at all. There was only darkness inside that busted old doorway that seemed to have swallowed her up. Now here's when it gets really messed up. I went back to the car, pulled up the Uber app to mark the ride complete, but the trip was gone. Completely gone. It was like it never happened. I stared at my phone for a good 5 minutes, refreshing over and over, restarting it, trying to find the ride, but it wasn't there. My car was still as cold as ice inside. The next day, I told this guy I know, who works for the city code office, about what happened. He's seen some stuff too, so I thought he might know something. And when I mentioned the address, his face got real still. "You ain't the first person to see something over there," he said. Turns out, back in 2011, a woman was found dead in that very building. She OD'd, alone. She was back there for days before anyone found her. No family, not even an ID. She had been found squatting in apartment 302. They say she could be seen at that same bar every once in a while on a Friday night. She would always sit at the same stool and always leave around closing. Some people swore they saw her walking down Delaware long after she died. But those were just stories. At least I used to think so. And let me tell you something that still really makes my skin crawl. Weeks later, I had the back seat detailed, cleaned from top to bottom, vacuumed, shampooed, the works. But the guy doing it stopped halfway through and called me over. He showed me a patch under the seatbelt buckle on the passenger side and said it looked like somebody had burned something there. It was a perfect oval of scorched fabric, like the end of a cigarette had been held against it. But I had no idea when it could have happened, and there had never been any smell. I switched to driving during the day after that, and I stopped picking up riders near Tommy's. And to this day, if I drive past those apartments, even just passing by, not even stopping, I swear, my car gets cold. Like cold. I can feel it in my bones. Sometimes, when I check the rearview mirror, I wonder if I'll see her sitting back there. But I never do. So let me tell you now, if you're ever driving alone at night around Gary, Indiana, and you get a request to Delaware Street, ignore it. She's already home.